When I have to introduce myself at an event or a meeting, I usually do this with a 3-sentence bio. German by birth, European by heart, and New Yorker by choice. You can imagine that the recent events in Europe and the never-ending Greek tragedy are very close to my heart. Much has been written about it on both sides of the Atlantic. I would like to share a few of my very personal thoughts and observations. In my opinion, this crisis is about more than just Greece avoiding the financial collapse, speak bankruptcy, or remaining, or leaving the Eurozone, or the beginning of the end of the European Union. No, the roots of this crisis lie deeper. Admittedly, this government inherited a country that was plundered by its former governments and oligarchs and inherited this huge debt incurred by those. Let's go on record here. The Greek people have the right to vote any political party into office they like. Life is about making choices. Consequently, life is also about harvesting the consequences of the choices made. The sad thing here is that the Greek people have already suffered so much under past governments that understandably, when someone promises them the end of austerity, that this appears to be an excellent choice. But as we know, choices have consequences. Without going into the details of the unrealistic promises made to the Greek people prior to the election, neither Alexis Tsipras nor his radical former finance minister Yanis Varoufakis had enough prior political experience to successfully negotiate with the other member countries of the EU here. Not only, let's call it, right and left-wing ideologies confronted each other, but also different generations with very different cultural DNAs. Personally, for me, the last point is one of the more critical ones in the development of the present Greek demise. I am not sure that America and other countries fully understand the importance of the differences of cultural makeups of Europe. When one lives and works, like I did, in a northern European country, like Germany, Austria, Switzerland, or let's say, in Scandinavia, where the sun does not shine for 6 months of the year, and you are confined to inside activities, what does one do? One spends more time educating oneself, working, and saving for retirement. It's inevitable and ingrained in people's DNA. Contrary, when one lives in a country where the sun shines and it is warm for 11 months of the year, what does one do? One is outside in the plazas, rambles and beaches enjoying oneself with family and friends. It's a savoir vivre and manana mentality equally deeply ingrained in people's DNA. I am not judging here, I am just pointing out that the differences between cultural DNAs lead to people making different choices and reaping different consequences. The problem is much too complicated to be solved by me and you. However, one thing is for sure. It is never good and not a sustainable solution for one person, a country or organization to mandate or force another to change. Individuals as well nations do not like to be told or dictated how to run their business. It only causes resentment and prevents mutual goal-oriented collaboration towards a positive future solution. It's just like with children, in order for them to learn to take responsibility for their own choices at some point of time in their lives, parents have to allow them to make mistakes in order to learn and grow from them. I believe that one of the hardest things in parents' lives is having to watch their children making avoidable mistakes and bearing the unwanted consequences. As far as Greece is concerned, its people choose this government without being aware of the consequences such a decision would have. Again, change often is connected with pain, suffering, uncertainty, and the loss of identity. The need for change either comes from within proactively or is being enforced by outer circumstances, as in Greece's case, by the other EU member states. When people don't like how their government is running their country, they have to stand up, get involved, and demand change proactively prior to the child having been thrown out with the bathwater. Past history gives us many examples of ignorance, complacency, and fear of an uncertain future, playing a major factor in causing wars and much suffering to peoples. And this brings me to my last point. According to Porter Stansberry, as of 2014 the US government owes roughly $1 trillion. The number is so large, it's meaningless. Translated, this means that every taxpayer, babies and old people included, owes roughly $153,000 like a mortgage on a house for many people. And it's not just the federal government that has become addicted to debt. If you add up all of our government, corporate and consumer debt, America owes roughly $60 trillion. This massive amount of national debt cannot be financed at any real rate of interest. If the government had to pay even 6% interest on its debt, it would cost nearly $1 trillion a year. And that's just to pay the interest on the debt. The entire government brings in less than $3 trillion a year in taxes. Going back to Greece's financial state of insolvency, its call for help, a debt reduction and bailout plan by the EU, does this ring a bell in me? Yes, it does. It rings more than just a normal bell in me. It rings an alarm bell in me. Who will thus be able to call on for a bailout plan or debt reduction? China, India, South America, etc. I think not highly unlikely. Therefore, it might be worth our while to contemplate over possible solutions and actions proactively before outer circumstances force change upon us. A lack of knowledge, or better ignorance or arrogance, coupled with a mentality of complacency, appear to also be prevalent in today's Americans' DNA. Additionally, recent governments have been more invested in party politics than tackling problems at their source. They chose to treat symptoms by printing more money instead of making unpopular political decisions. They avoided taking the necessary steps to effect real change, and thus prevented a transformation of unsustainable socio-economic and financial structures. This whole scenario resembles very much that of Greece, at least to me.